Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here. Today we're talking about Xbox because Microsoft has just released a crazy statement. One of the top Xbox executives has just admitted that they're going fully third party. There will never be an exclusive ever again. That every studio, every developer, everybody is just more excited about PlayStation and Nintendo Switch 2 than they ever were about being on Team Green. And I wanted to talk about this because today is a fascinating day where a lot of the biggest Xbox journalists, Xbox YouTubers are admitting how wrong they were. And it's funny because I've been completely right about this for years. I mean, I've been calling this out since like 2022. And this isn't some, wow, I'm so smart. It's that it's been blatantly obvious. Every time Microsoft claims Game Pass is super profitable, we don't need to sell games. We don't need people to sign up for our service. We don't need people to buy our hardware. The games are still profitable. This was obviously lies. I mean, it's been obviously lies now for almost a half decade. So the fact that people repeated those lies so much, it's just been interesting to watch. And so seeing people today kind of wake up and say, yes, Microsoft has just been lying about the state of Xbox since pretty much the beginning of the Series X launch. I want to break this down because their newest statement, I think, kind of signals the fact that I really don't think they're doing next gen at all. I think at this point, they really have two options, right? Create less games, sell some of their game studios, shut down some of their game studios, or at the very least, they got to just start basically saying, look, we can't even afford it in the budget to make an Xbox version of the game. We're just going to put it on Nintendo Switch, on PlayStation, and PC, and hope we break even. I do truly think this statement today to me almost kind of signifies the death of Game Pass. But let me explain. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It is 9 degrees where I am in Dallas, Texas right now. 9. Not even 10. 9 degrees. That is insane to me. So let's hope the power grid does not go down like it did the last couple ice storms. Now, the whole thing about this that I think's really got people talking a lot is that there was obviously that Xbox Developer Direct a couple days ago, and a lot of the internet really enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it less. I think that Fable looks fantastic. I'm not the biggest Forza fan, and I'll be honest, I thought these other two games looked like hot garbage. But what was crazy is that they straight up came out here, and in the trailers of the Xbox Developer Direct, PS5 logos all over the place. PS5 logos all over the place. And you just really don't see that. Look, it's just wild to see the fact that, hey, these games are great on Game Pass. You're going to be great on Game Pass. But hey, look, if you want big crazy stuff, our actual big AAA stuff is best on PlayStation 5 Pro. This is the one that I called out years ago that a lot of people said I was definitely wrong about. I said that when we first saw the teaser trailers for this, I was basically like, look, man, there's no way this is profitable if it's only on Xbox. If this thing's on Xbox, they might as well set that money on fire to keep themselves warm. This thing has to be a PlayStation and PC game. So obviously, it's coming to PlayStation 5. And honestly, Steelers still kind of hating on it. I still think the gameplay looks really, really fun, right? Chicken chase it. Okay. Here's the statement today, though. They've been talking a lot about how they're trying to do that typical PR speak. We're going where the gamers are at. There's 80 million PS5s. Of course we're going to put all our games on PS5. There's like 20 million Xboxes. If there's 4 times more PlayStation players and PlayStation players actually buy games, have you ever done a fun thing and looked at like the physical sales numbers of Xbox games? They're like single digits sometimes. Like we're talking like every other territory, something will sell like 100,000 or 200,000 copies, and on Xbox it'll sell like 1,000 copies. Anyways, the 4 pillars of Xbox are now officially coming to PlayStation: Halo, Gears, Forza, and Fable. And this to me is wild because I've been thinking about the fact that it's not just that these franchises are making that jump over to the blue ocean of sales. To me, it's wild that really consider the fact that almost all of these have switched developers, right? Lionhead is gone. The creators of Fable got fired by Microsoft like in the Xbox One generation. That's how long it's been. Whereas Halo, obviously 343 Industries is sort of the same people, but sort of not. Obviously Bungie invented Halo. It's just one of those things where I feel like the vibe, the people that even invented Gears of War Cliff Bleszinski and stuff. That guy basically walked out with his paycheck a decade ago. It's just interesting that in a way, they're really trying to keep this going, right? The idea of old school Xbox is kind of a shambling corpse to compare to like what they sort of are trying to present it as. But let me take a look. This is the full statement. So this is Craig Duncan, head of Xbox Game Studios, talking about the fact that they're trying to do better about communicating. And he sort of admits the fact that they did sell people a lie. And it's this: we're going to try to be more consistent with what we do. As the guy that gets to run the studios and help our game teams, I take a pretty simple view on this. We want our games to reach the most players possible. And we've been on this journey before. You know, I was running Sea of Thieves at Rare when we took it to PS5, and as we migrated the Xbox players to PlayStation, we saw more players come in. We saw the community around the game grow. Forza Horizon 5, which launched on PS5 last year, did really well. Yeah, who would have thought that selling a game on a console that actually has players and actually has players that, I don't know, buy games, it'll sell some games. It helped the community game grow. It gives everybody more people to play with. For me, the strategy is really about how we can have our games reach as many people as possible. Now, what's interesting is that last year, we heard the original lie, it's just 4 games, right? That was the original Phil Spencer lie. He came on camera, he straight up looked into the lens and said, hey, this is only 4 games. It's nothing else. It's not crazy stuff. It's just these couple games. And then right after that, every single game started coming to PlayStation. And since then, I feel like you see Phil Spencer a lot less. I do think they sent Phil Spencer out there to lie. I think the CEO, Satya Nadella, said, somebody's got to take the hit. Go out there, lie to the fans. And a lot of people repeated that lie. This is a guy who gets a lot of hate. Paris, I'm not here to bash on him. Instead, what I'm saying is the fact that Paris is one of those people that repeated the lie a lot. Like, he didn't know it, but he was one of those people that said, it's just 4 games. This isn't fully third party. The Xbox ecosystem still has its purpose and stuff. And now he's basically saying, well, I'm just wrong. I was wrong about flagship games staying exclusive. Now, there's a ton of quotes. Anybody that's been doing a lot of podcasts or doing a lot of videos, you end up having bad quotes. There's dumb quotes of me saying all sorts of stupid stuff, but people like to show a lot of quotes of Paris basically saying that, like, when they bought Bethesda, he was like, there's no way that any Bethesda game will ever be on PlayStation ever again. You know, every single time they bought stuff, he said, you're buying Call of Duty to make Call of Duty exclusive, right? Obviously, that was just his sort of estimation. Like, because to me, it's still logical, right? Why do they spend almost $100 billion on acquisitions to go third party? So I understand his reasoning, even if obviously it ended up being incorrect. Once Xbox ripped off the Band-Aid, it was inevitable that all their games would be on PlayStation and Nintendo, but day and date depends on the studio, resources to deliver a quality experience. This is wild. Now that we're here, it doesn't change much of except opening the door to playing more games you want, which IMO have always been good. More games for everyone is never a bad thing, but also more reason to not invest in Xbox hardware, as gaming is an expensive hobby and not as affordable as it used to be. I say this as someone with both a PS5 and an Xbox. You've heard me talk about this multiple times, and I asked Phil Spencer this question directly. Their hardware will be boutique moving forward, and if you decide it's not for you, then you're still going to get their games on other hardware. And this to me is super interesting. Yeah, I did see that. I want to give you your flowers, despite the hate you get for being one of the only people who said Microsoft should be clear about where they're going multi-platform. That is the thing to me, right? Is that we're really in the spot where it feels like a lot of Xbox gamers are upset that it does seem like you only see Xbox excited about PlayStation. In these developer directs, in these interviews, in these sit-down talks, even stuff like the reveal of something like Avowed. They revealed that Avowed is coming to the PS5. You really only see these developers seem to be actually excited when they're talking about PlayStation ports. People are talking about the fact that, look at this, Xbox developers are more excited to launch on PlayStation than Xbox. Even South of Midnight, when they announced South of Midnight coming to Xbox, or coming from Xbox to PlayStation, they announced that at the Game Awards. Every single game is just only able to become at least partially profitable on the PlayStation. It's such an interesting spot, right? It's that the math of Game Pass on paper checks out, right? Instead of trying to get people to buy tens of millions of copies of your games, you have this cheaper offer up front. The Game Pass experiment was always like, instead of charging a bunch of people $60 for a game, let's get 100 million people to buy an $8 or a $10 a month service. And so we're way more in the green. We can do way more experimentation, way more mid-tier projects. We can do a lot of different style of AAA and AA. But it just never materialized. The bandwagon of Game Pass never really grew to that profitable margin they were trying to get, but they ended up teaching their fan base to never, ever, ever buy a game. I think anybody who spent any amount of time on social media, watched any Xbox videos, watched anything Xbox, seen Xbox tweets, you always hear the same thing. I'm not going to buy it. I'll wait for it on Game Pass. And I feel like that taught a lot of developers, don't even bother going to Xbox. If you don't give it to them for free, they're never, ever going to give you a cent. And man, did that end up going down like a wet fart in a tiny elevator. How do you feel about Xbox right now? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And how do you feel about that Xbox Developer Direct? Are you super, super excited for Fable like I am? Holy heck, the fact that's coming 2026. Ooh, I want Fable bad, bad. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. I am too damn freezing. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.